Hi everyone, I'm Kärri.
And I'm Ketly.
And for a bit of context, Ketly and I met while working at a consumer fintech, where up until pretty much the point we left to build Totiland, we spent our careers building and selling solutions to enable consumers to consume more, with more or less zero thought given to the impact this was having on the world our kids would one day have to live in.
And Totiland was born from our personal conviction that our knowledge and skills could be utilized to achieve the opposite, to mobilize and empower 4 billion consumers to help halt the climate crisis. Gotta have humble goals, right? But we believe it's something that's very feasible, and luckily so do the IPCC reports.
Yeah, we're super humble. We found on the way that through many pivots and turns, that the way for me as a consumer to actually have more value was to own my consumer identity truly. And through that ownership, not only would I have this increased value, but can I actually also generate true positive impact? But for a little quick refresh on this consumer mindset, as it is somewhat our backgrounds, the consumer thought process is pretty predictable, right? Me as a consumer say, me Kärri, I want to be healthier, I want to eat more oranges. So I'm thinking, how can I eat more oranges? I need something to encourage me to eat more oranges. But if I have this orange peeler, right, this plastic orange peeler, I might eat more oranges. So I'm researching the peelers, I'm finding a KitchenAid orange peeler or any other gadget like this. I'm thinking, okay, is this for me? Can I afford this? Do I need this? Etc., etc. In the end, I think, okay, I'm definitely going to eat more oranges if I buy this orange peeler. So now, yes, I'll pay with Apple Pay. 2 weeks later, I'm thinking, oh, I have been eating more oranges, so that was a great purchase. Thank you, KitchenAid. I'll leave a great review. And yeah, you can contact me about these smoothie makers, blenders in the future, because now I'm eating so much fruit and so much veg, right? Each of these thoughts and choices and considerations ends up with a mouse click, right? And an action or a non-action, which are all little pieces, little grains that feed into my identity, aka my gold dust. There's a special effect here. Oh, yes. Yeah, it's happening. And it's my gold dust that powers this engine. So every choice I'm making to buy, to not buy, to forget, change my mind, to move on, I'm just feeding this major engine that ultimately is also increasing my willingness to buy. And you know what's more? The matrix deepens. I'm actually part of many engines and many cycles, going around them, sprinkling my little gold dust, super nice human that I am. Here you go, a little bit for you, a little bit for you. And there is no arguing, as I think everyone here knows, there's no arguing that this does actually create value back to me as a consumer today, right? I get this pretty regular 10 to 20% discounts, I don't know, personalized offers for like other smoothie machines, expedited shipping, etc., etc., etc. But, and you knew there was a but coming, the value of those personalized offers, the value of that expedited shipping, etc., does not outweigh the value, nor is it, equal. It does not outweigh the value of my increased custom. It's my gold dust that is powering those engines to create this increased custom, whereas I'm personally not gaining anything further.
Consider this. Facebook, yeah, we know it's meta now, but just for the simplicity of this, Facebook holds thousands of pages of information about me, about my preferences, connections, patterns. I actually have no idea of the real scope of this. And it's estimated to earn roughly $900 a year from my data. So here's a question. If you need to think of that 900 as a subscription fee in order to be able to use Facebook in an app store, would you do that?
Another way to look at it, another angle, is rewards models and subscriptions. Let's just use Amazon Prime as an example here. Me, Kärri, as an average Amazon Prime member, not subscriber, member, in North America, I spend roughly $1,400 a year. Where, in addition, by the way, to my $139 subscription fee, a membership fee. Whereas I would spend around $600 were I not a Prime member, right? This means Amazon makes more than twice the profit off of me as a Prime member than was I not the Prime member, right? Which essentially means that my gold dust is enabling them to sell me that much more, right? And another way to think of it is, would I pay this $182 for this privilege to consume more, right? Plus to donate my data for free here. Would I pay this? And by the way, 182 might seem, I don't know, to some more, some less, but it's not a significant amount. But consider this, the larger half of the American population today cannot afford a $1,000 emergency expense. I'm sure we've all seen the news recently, right? Emergency expense such as health-related cost or car breaking down. They can't afford this. So $182 is a pretty significant amount, right?
Yes, so who owns the gold dust, and it's not the consumer. But times are changing. Mm-hmm. We can make a tune out of this. Yeah. The early adopter group of the global consumer is becoming more aware of this. And the global sentiment towards Google and Meta are good examples of this and strong indicators of this. And new browsers such as Brave or social media solutions such as Lens Protocol, Farcaster, or even PopSpot here in Estonia are good signs that people are welcoming these new types of solutions. And what all of these solutions have in common is that they treat user identity and the underlying data as the property belonging to the individual. And although this is not the main topic for today, it would be weird to not at least mention what is making the user-owned identity suddenly so realistic. We have heard of blockchain being the big hype, the land of financial speculation, especially when it's presented in words like crypto or Web3. But let's recall the basics. Public blockchain is an immutable public ledger, which is by definition decentralized, trustless, and secure, which means no one owns the data it records, but everyone has access to it. And with some added functionalities for user-side control, it makes it the perfect vehicle for user-owned identities to be built on top. And by owning my identity, it now becomes a functional asset that enables me, the consumer, to move between these cycles and engines and benefit from being able to benefit by earning also from the fact that I'm sharing my data when I'm going across these platforms with actually one simple login. So I think that's another interesting prospect for the future. No filling in your information more than once anymore. I don't know if we can really imagine this. Also, imagine being able to verifiably indicate that I have taken climate action. For example, I'm more walking than driving with my car. And you're able to indicate that on Tinder or LinkedIn to improve the quality of your connections so that they meet or better align with your values. I can use my identity to get access to a community of individuals fighting for climate change, or I can get a priority access to an event if I've offset my footprint. And think of the lending and security use cases here. if impact would be applied as a filter for fraud detection, I think we would have a great amount of frauds who have offset their footprint, which is pretty fun and ironic, to be honest. So maybe let them do all this fraudulent actions when they're making a lot of impactful actions along the way. In fact, let's get all the troll armies and all the bad bots to start saving the world together. Some food for thought here. And data itself can have numerous filters applied on top, like work, personal, volunteering, gaming, etc. With Dataland, we're focusing on the impact angle when looking at consumer behavioral data, which you probably might have assumed from all of my examples already. But being able to utilize my climate positive behavior and being able to earn from it increases my ability to do even more climate positive actions, also increases my motivation to do more climate positive actions, which in return increases the value of my impact gold dust.
All of this, of course, changes the relationship between brands, platforms, solutions, and me, the consumer. So instead of those value and data transactions being kind of one or two-way streets, they now become a sort of network of paths and roads. And in this way, we may see, for example, a global hospitality rewards program integrating my values inclusive data into their rewards program and ultimately reducing operating costs. Or one example that we play around with a lot is community lending platforms, integrating this information about an individual that they willingly have shared into their input for consideration, enabling reduction in cost of risk. Or something completely kind of out there, a global mobility platform creating a whole new sub-ecosystem together with a renewable energy platform. With this type of input data about the individual included, they are ultimately able to build a model to offer, for example, EV rental to a whole new group of customers at the lowest possible cost for that customer. So this essentially is creating a whole new set of opportunities for both existing and new businesses who today very much utilize personalization for retention. In this new world, no special effects here, in this new world, the brands and services and solutions that will win are the brands and services and solutions that help me, the consumer, increase the value of my gold dust. And they can do this by building their solutions around and integrating my sovereign identity. If any of this spoke to any of you as individuals, as representatives of a solution, please get in touch with myself or Ketly. We'd love to hear from you and talk further. And thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Also for questions, as always, I don't see any questions here yet, but insight.votemo.eu, please ask any questions that you have, and I can read them out and ask them. So I would, my question would be basically, because we've seen this data stuff, like, are these trends changing now? What have you seen like in the past couple of years maybe, especially now that everything has gone more digital? After basically COVID happened, everything went online. Like, have we seen a lot of new changes recently, or?
Yeah, we have seen a lot of changes, and I think one that we didn't touch upon right now is definitely also the regulation that has been put in place in order to protect consumer data. So I think that has been a very big step in like regulating the data usage and how businesses can leverage our data. So I think it has been a really good first start, and it has forced new solutions that are being built to consider and more even like making them think like, how can I bring in the least possible data? Like, what's the least possible data that I need? Because there are a lot of now like obligations that I need to consider if I'm holding consumer data. So I think that in itself, like in businesses and developers' mindset, has been a really, really good change. And I think definitely some of the examples that we already mentioned, the social media solutions being, I think, even the leading ones here, because I think there's been a lot of talk about how much data is actually being recorded about us and us not being able to leverage that. And I think an interesting aspect here is also that in theory, we all have the right to download our data, like from Facebook or Twitter. But what are you actually doing with this? Like, where are you going with this right now? I have no idea what's the value of that and like who's going to read it. And I think the main thing that's going to change now is that it will now turn into a form that is readable, usable, and valuable, so that actually I can see a price tag on that, and I have a choice as a consumer if I even want to share that. Maybe I don't want to share that, and that's also fine. But it's creating this very interesting situation where now I, as a consumer, am moving around with my data, bringing new information to platforms, while as before they only had this information about my behavior in their platform and other data that they have bought in about me.
Yeah, and maybe to add, I think the utility, when data starts having kind of visible, measurable value for the end consumer, the individual, that's when the kind of mass adoption or mass caring about data ownership actually comes in. Because today it's great. We are talking about this here. There's some people listening, maybe some even working in that same field, etc. But there is no denying that most of the world are still gonna go like into their digital consumer journeys and click accept all on the freaking cookies, right? Because it holds no value to compare against. But that will change the moment they have an understanding, oh, that click is worth like $182.
Yeah. Do you think that the sort of, we currently are talking about maybe like even making some social media platforms illegal, so they're banned in some places. Do you think that's like a symptom of the people getting more sort of knowledgeable about their own data, or is it the other way around, that because people are more knowledgeable sort of because of the thing that, oh, they're closing like TikTok down or something, and now suddenly, oh, because it's the data thing. Is that sort of, which came first, the egg or the hen, so to speak? Mm-hmm.
It's a very good question, actually. I think, first of all, it's my personal opinion, but that TikTok is a special case and actually pertaining to a very specific global trade relationship, but and information non-exchange.
We also had Instagram, which talked about in some countries and so on. Like,
I think in terms of, and this is again a personal opinion, but I think it's overwhelming. There is a sense of there is no other way to control it than to kind of cut the tie in a way, and there is no denying that the data that is currently being discussed in the US on the floor, which is they are using the example of data about our children, right? And it scares me too. Data about my children, like out there, scares me too. And up until very recently, there's been very little kind of, let's say, tool sets for controlling or kind of compartmentalizing it. So it had to be viewed as this one massive, uncontrollable kind of blob. Yeah. I think those decisions and conversations are largely fueled by this sense of overwhelming blob and like a lack of compartmentalization in a view, particularly in terms of regulation.
Okay. From the audience as well, who do you think has to change their mindset before, the consumer or companies wanting their gold dust?
I love this question. I believe, as I also said in the end, that we are getting to a point where the consumer will be able to dictate quite a lot. And the brands and the businesses that don't accommodate to that are the ones that are going to miss out. Yeah.
We're all about believing in the power of consumers, and I think when they have the simple enough tools and it's convenient to them, then they have the power to demand change.
Okay. And a personal question as well, what do you find the most challenging in your journey of Dottyland?
Which one of these?
Okay. I don't know if
I can go with the first one.
Yeah.
I think definitely what we're talking about for many, I'm assuming for at least several people here is like, what are they even talking about? And I think it's just being a lot in the future, and you always don't know when the future will happen. Yeah. And I think it's up until that point, it's a lot of like assumptions you need to make, these hypotheses you need to make, and just build towards something without necessarily being able to verify all of these assumptions and hypotheses along the way immediately. So I think this is definitely one of the harder things, and there is also basically no blueprints in front of you. So you do need to figure it out on your own, and obviously there will be next ones who are able to copy you.
Yeah, it's because someone has to start the conversation for things to change, but you don't know what you have to keep it all going and so on.
But luckily we're mostly talking about impact, but if we're looking already other solutions like social media, for example, then I think this is already kind of the blueprint that has gone even further already, and we have a lot to learn from there. So we're not totally alone at all. I think there's a whole world emerging.
There's a whole bunch of people that are like way smarter and doing incredible things, and we get to learn from them, thank God.
That's always good. That's what this whole event is about, in a way, people learning from each other. So thank you very much.
Thank
we learned
you.
a lot
Thank
as
you
well.
so much for listening.